Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. No, this time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
Welcome everybody to the FPV News with me, JB, and you.
It's Blunty.
There
I'm
we
here.
go. Almost like we rehearsed it.
Yeah.
How's it going, Blunty? How you doing tonight?
Good. How about you, Joshua?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing better than you. I heard you had to take a scooter ride in 30-degree weather
I did.
last night.
It wasn't for nothing, but yes, I did.
Did you come back with all your toes?
I did. And my fingers were
good.
numb for a little while, but
Yeah. Okay. Good.
part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. You live, in case people don't know, you live in Denver. It's quite cold there right now.
Yeah, though we have not had snow here this year still.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
we haven't either, but I live in Knoxville, so it's not that unusual.
True.
We're very glad you're here with us as well, whether it's cold where you are or not, because there's a lot of news in the world of FPV, and our goal is to distill it all down and bring it to you 1 hour at a time, and that is what we plan to do this week. And unfortunately, Blunty, I cannot read my show notes because my right side screen is destroyed from our simulator stream on Friday, where I smashed it accidentally.
Yeah, that's it's no good. It's no good for you.
No, not what if it's no good for me, but that'll hopefully be fixed tomorrow. Mouse FPV says, Blunty, I've done worse for a booty call. If only it was a booty call. When you said it's not for nothing, I think it was a business. I mean, I'm not trying to share your business.
Yeah.
But nothing wrong if you had gone for a late night 30-degree booty call. I wouldn't have spilled those beans on the stream quite so readily.
True.
I would have respected your privacy. Well, some of the items we have on the news that we're excited to talk about. The one that I'm most excited to talk about is the new DRL racing drone bed that you can buy for $25,000. We are going to be saving that one for last because it has no substance. But
Yeah.
what are you looking forward to tonight?
Well, Radiomaster's finally released an internal Express LRS radio, or at least has announced it and put up orders and stuff. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting because we've listed that as the first Express LRS radio. And of course, my first thought was, what about the Jumper T Pro? And that'll be a little bit of a sort of a side news item.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we talk about. And of course, probably the biggest headline is that Fatshark drops SharkByte support. And that is not clickbait. But if you saw that headline and you thought Fatshark is dropping SharkByte, stop. It's not clickbait. They are dropping SharkByte support, and we're going to talk about exactly what that means if you have SharkByte equipment and so forth. It's not as bad as you're probably imagining, but it is not entirely clickbait either.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Before we get into the very first news item, let me just say, oh yeah, I got me on the screen now. Let me just say thank you guys so much. We're going to be checking you out. I got you right here on my main screen. We're going to be checking your comments. Wesley Vardy, good to see you here, my friend.
Well, now you got to point to stuff, right? Because you're on the screen.
Yeah.
Come in this chat or that chat over there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I am flipped. So when I point this way, I'm pointing the wrong way. But hey, what can you do? I'm flipped. I could flip myself, I guess. Yeah, and thank you also to these beautiful people over here in the Discord who are my patrons, and wouldn't be the same without them. So, now that that's out of the way, let's start with the very first item of the week, and that is a little PSA for you, Blunty.
Yeah.
Using the news to enrich ourselves, as you do.
Yes.
Blunty, I've noticed that you're super, super helpful. Sorry, I was going to compliment you for a minute before I let you take off with self-promotion.
Okay.
I've noticed that you are super, super helpful on the Discord server. In fact, it's one of the reasons that we work together. Not to say that anyone else, lots of people are helpful, but I have noticed that about you. And you're super knowledgeable. And that's why I feel completely comfortable endorsing this service that you're providing.
Yeah. So I've launched a itsblunty.com. So if you like, it's an easy place to remember. But I've started a troubleshooting service. This is a premium troubleshooting service. So I even remind you at the beginning there, if you need any help and you don't want to pay, I'm always around to help you, but I can't always go above and beyond. So I'm releasing a service for what I think is a pretty good deal for the price here, which is $50 an hour and $40 for the extra stuff. For any voiced help, remote desktop help, phone calls, or double that time for like guaranteed quick text replies where I could guarantee I'll get back to you and make sure I can help you. This is one of those things where like obviously there's no way I can promise that I can fix your issue, but I will take your issue beforehand. I've got a space down there for you to type it. So you can let me know, what's your issue, and maybe I could help you. And I do list things I'm good at and things I'm not so great at. Like I'm not going to tune your quad. That's not my forte. But I've got a lot of other skills that hopefully I can help you with. So if you did want super premium service and you want to get on the phone with somebody, or you want to like have somebody remote in your computer and just click all the buttons on Betaflight, they got to be clicked. I'm here to do that. So
yeah, and I think this is great. This is a great business model. I kind of do the same thing, although I have less spare time to do it. But my philosophy is that I'll help everyone for free. I will never paywall the ability to get help from me. Now, it's not always as fast as you would like because I'm simultaneously helping 27 people at once. Some of the people say, hey, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, well, yes, you can. And now I'll be back after I cycle through 27 conversations. That was your shot. So the desire to just have, so you drop everything and talk to one person is really what you're paying for. And I think those prices are more than fair.
Yeah, hopefully I can help you out. So if you got something weird or you just want to chat for an hour, honestly, that's fine with me too. But just fill out that form and let me know.
It's not Sam in the Discord wants to know if he can buy time to just race with him in the sim.
Yeah, I'd do that. So
probably do that for free if they caught you at the right time. So that's really great. There's other people out there who have similar services. You know, I have heard good things about, well, Mike Crabtree is a guy who's on my streams a lot. Sorry, I got something on my shirt. Mike Crabtree's a guy who comes up on streams a lot, and people have said positive things. It's always good when there's people out there who you know are reputable, who are knowledgeable, and are professional, and probably worth. I mean, some people out there are going, that's too much money. No one should pay that. And like, hey, it sounds like you shouldn't pay it, right? But it's yeah. Good. All right. Well, that's listed down in the show notes. We have all the URLs and other links and other stuff for the show down in the show notes below in the video description. In addition, if anybody out there wants to make timestamps and paste them in a comment, by all means, I'll pin the comment. And then people who come, just a service for the people who come after you. For the time being, of course, there are no timestamps. Next up, we've got the first radio with internal Express LRS, and that is the Radiomaster Zorro. And of course, we need to get out of the way that Zorro FPV is a guy, and he's not, as far as we know, involved in this.
Yeah,
so
different spelling.
Zorro with 2 R's instead of an OE.
So good luck with the website. It's been trashed all day.
The website is borked. How about this YouTube video? Is that going to get me
anywhere? The YouTube video
anywhere?
should still work. So the big thing here is that, you know, you're basically going to get a choice. So Express LRS is one of the options here, in addition to the 4-in-1 and a bunch of other things. A couple of people in chat have brought up the Lite Radio 2 SE Express LRS, but that is a non-OpenTX radio that's not super configurable, you know, doesn't have a lot of options, and is honestly not a radio I would recommend to anybody. But also, like, even though it was the first one, I don't believe they've still pushed the PR for that to the Express LRS team from the Beta FPV radio. Maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, this is the first one that I believe is like supported and has PRs and like is like, so this I've already looked today. This actually has the OpenTX build already ready for it. So like it'll work with internal CRSF. That's already been set up. So this is like true internal Express LRS.
Yeah, and the key, I mean, it really matters that they're actually participating in the project, that they're doing those pull requests and so forth, and they're not just doing some proprietary build.
Yeah, I will say I don't know if this was like sent to developers. Like, I don't know about any of that stuff, but I do know that they have, like, you know, they've been at least making sure that everything is ready to get this radio to launch. So.
And my other friend, we'll just keep watching this cool promotional video until it plays out. My other thought was, and people asked this in the comments, what about the Jumper T Pro, which was announced as a gamepad style radio like the T8, but with Express LRS built in. It was going to be Express LRS 900 megahertz, which kind of confused me. But they recently announced that radio, and guess what?
Yeah, there's no Express LRS option.
It's the standard 4-in-1 module.
Yeah, it's not clear why that is exactly, but you know, it looks like there's not going to be another SKU there, and looks like there's just going to be the 4-in-1 for the T Pro for now. And if they do add Express LRS internal, it will be later. So, yeah, this looks like this will be the first well-supported proper one with like HDX, OpenTX, like a real internal Express LRS option.
Yeah.
So, and this is Radiomaster, so I think everybody shouldn't, you know, this paves the way for, you know, larger Radiomaster radios with an internal module as well, I'm sure. You know.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I feel confident that that is on the way.
Yes. The other thing I want to mention is just that I don't think this radio is too bad. It's $100 for the Express LRS radio that we were looking at just there. The CC2500, just a single one, is $80, and the Express LRS 4-in-1's $100. But there's a lot there. There's a nano attachment on the, there's a nano module attachment on the back. It's got option for extra battery pack. It takes 18 350s, but it'll take 18 650s with an optional on the bottom. I don't think they could fit them in the it's like the X-Lite problem where they couldn't get them in the.
Just make them longer.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Just make it longer. Like even X-Lite had longer battery caps, so you could use 18 650s.
Yeah.
Radiomaster, you could do this.
They added like extra M2 mounting holes for extra stuff on the radio, like a lot of different things they put in there. There's trims on it, which a lot of these radios don't end up getting trimmed, so I saw a lot of people were excited about that. For
fixed wing pilots,
Yeah.
Yeah,
seems like it'll be a good option.
Also, we may be burying the lead here a little bit, but it also ships with Edge TX, not OpenTX.
True. Yeah, these will. I don't know. Yeah, I assume it'll ship on Edge. I'm not 100% sure since Radiomaster's doing that. It says
Sorry,
edge and open.
Yes, that's true, I guess. I don't know for a fact it ships with Edge. I know Radiomaster is moving that direction if they haven't already gone that direction.
Yes. I just wasn't able to verify that. But
okay.
Yeah, I do know they have a build ready for OpenTX side as well for this radio. So
I mean, I would love to have it ship with EdgeTX.
Yeah.
That'd be so exciting. I mean, an Express LRS radio, kind of cutting edge, you'd want it to ship with EdgeTX. Now, one of the questions that people asked, and it's not directly related to this news item, is why aren't we getting a 5-in-1 radio with built-in Express LRS? And because there's a lot of people out there who still have Frsky, Spectrum, FlySky receivers, or maybe Bind and Fly, Tiny Whoops, and they don't want to have to pick and choose. You want to dive into that at all?
Yeah, so the big issue with that is that Express LRS currently is maintained in the Express LRS GitHub repo, right? Express LRS developers are working on Express LRS and maintaining Express LRS. However, multi-protocol module, which is the 4-in-1 we use, is another project run by another person, and it's the 4-in-1 multi-protocol module, and they support those 4 chips. For us to get a 5-in-1 module, there has to be a maintained section in the repo for the for multi-protocol module for Express LRS, and the work has to be done constantly to maintain that with the current Express LRS that's going on in the other GitHub repo. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that basically needs somebody dedicated who's committing to doing that on the NPM group. And currently, you know, that's a lot more than anybody is willing to commit to at this time.
It's not as simple as just saying, I'm going to put both modules in the radio, and I'm going to just like flip a switch. And one moment I'll be using Express LRS, and one moment I'll be using the 4-in-1. The radio essentially interfaces with the external module, and if you want to have both a 4-in-1 and Express LRS, those two things have to be one. And the work of making them one is too much. No one wants to do that or thinks that's a good idea. So if you are that person, then you can either get the radio with the 4-in-1 module internally and use an external Express LRS module, or you get the radio with Express LRS internally and use an external 4-in-1 module. It's your pick.
Yeah. That seems to be the solution. I don't think, you know, you mentioned there's not really a way to switch. As far as I know, there's not like a solution right now currently for anything like that, where you'd basically have to toggle the SPI bus or whatever would happen internally. Like on some kind of switch there. It is possible that maybe somebody could figure that out, but currently there is no like known solution.
Yeah, I mean, obviously someone could do that. It would require hardware to switch the radio circuitry, and it would require modifications to OpenTX, presumably, although I don't know, I'm not an OpenTX dev, but presumably OpenTX would need to in some way be aware of the fact that it has 2 external modules at the same time, which currently it doesn't really do. Nevertheless, I think that it's very exciting, and I think there's a lot of people who are going to pick. Oh, by the way, it's 2.4 gig, right? Not 900. That was the other thing about the Jumper T Pro. It was 900 megahertz Express LRS. So I was like, really? That's an odd choice.
Yeah. I mean, maybe part of the reason they bailed out of that was because people were like, why is this 900? Don't do that.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I guess. Anyway, very excited for Radiomaster here, and I think a lot of people are going to be very interested in this radio. So.
Yeah. For those that have asked, there's still no update on the iFlight radio. It was supposed to drop 11/20, and I haven't seen anything since then. So,
MK in the Discord points out that the Jumper T18 does internal multi-protocol module with R9 and a JR Bay. Yeah, and that's how we know that this won't work, because for the Jumper T18, the way they did that, I'm told by developers, so I'm just repeating what I've been told here, is that they integrated the R9 code into the multi-protocol module project. So the guy who maintains the multi-protocol module project, Pascal Langer, I think is who it is, that code was integrated, and they have to maintain it. It's now part of the multi-protocol module project. And when it came time to ask the question, should we make a 5-in-1 module with Express LRS, all of the devs, I mean, I wasn't in the room for the conversation, but the people I've talked to say that everybody agreed that that would just not work, because Express LRS is such a fast-moving project that integrating it into the multi-protocol module the way that they did with R9 would be completely untenable. Whereas R9 just kind of sits there and is like, okay, here I am.
Right. Yeah. Maybe some point. Yeah. Farther down the line when it's not constantly switching, or there's some kind of like somehow ability for backward stuff. So maybe it's possible, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see that soon.
Yeah. Anyway, a very exciting product and a very exciting continued evolution of Express LRS as time goes on. You know, Blunty, where's the show notes? There they are. Sorry.
Behind the crack.
Yes. Where are my show notes? There they are. I can't see my screens. We got a couple more pieces of Express LRS news. The next one has to do with a new vendor making Express LRS hardware, and it's not who you might have guessed. Well, you might have guessed.
Yeah. So this is Vantac is releasing new TX and RX modules. I'm actually linked to it on Frsky's website so you could see. This is actually from all my understanding, everyone I've spoke to, and all the research that I've done, Vantac is a Frsky brand. And Vantac, if you'll look, this is identical packaging to the R9. It's sold by Frsky's wholesalers, and they only sell Frsky products. It's also sold by Horus RC. That's the other link that we have for you there. But basically, there's a TX and RX module. So.
Horus RC, also an official Frsky website. Because there were a couple people there was at least one person in the comments saying Vantac is not Frsky. As far as we can tell, Vantac basically is Frsky.
Yeah, they've also, it was a couple years ago, but they sold some planes and stuff under that branding, which is Frsky Vantac, and a couple other things. So it does look like we're getting 2.4 gigahertz, which is the one we would want. I'm so surprised it's not 900. That's the other thing. It shocks me because they have all this R9 hardware, presumably.
Well, maybe they're not wanting to compete with their R9 hardware. I don't know.
That's also fair. It's also fair.
I mean, but yeah,
it looks like we're getting Express LRS from somebody who presumably will be good build quality. We'll have to see.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, wanting the best possible build quality, Frsky makes good hardware. I've always said this. It's their firmware that's annoying. So if Frsky wants to make, I mean, that could end up being a really, really good 2.4 gigahertz Express LRS module. We don't know. Wesley Vardy says, Frsky R9 is STM32. It doesn't use the ESP32 processor or microcontroller, which is what's the new hotness. That makes sense. So he says, Jai Smith says, even Frsky knows 900 megahertz is dead. Irish Toft in the Discord says, Frsky makes great hardware. However, I wonder how they will make it incompatible with other Express LRS stuff.
Oh, yeah, that was my first thought.
They'll find a way.
Yeah, well, what's going to happen here?
It's going to be their fork of we're just making jokes here. Don't take this seriously. But yeah, they're going to fork Express LRS, make one change to make it incompatible, and then sell it as their own thing.
They need to patch a really rare servo bug and then lock it out.
So what is the best hardware for Express LRS right now, Blunty? Some people in the chat, MK says the best hardware is Ghost. You can flash Immersion RC Ghost to Express LRS. It's a one-way trip. You can't go back.
Yeah, also cost is high there compared to other options, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Right now, it looks like, unfortunately, I have to say, the Beta FPV module looks like a very solid module with their QC and issues, other than the button drop thing that is getting fixed and full support for the OLED and joystick will be in 2.1. Otherwise, that module seems pretty solid. Also,
the hardware seems solid, at least in this rev. The problem is with Beta FPV that we don't, and this is true not just with Beta FPV, but we can't be sure that in the second manufacturing run they won't introduce a problem.
And then also Happy Model. Quite a few of those Happy Model modules look to be solid now. They've gone through a lot of revisions, I think, and kind of hopefully drilled out a lot of the issues. So yeah, it looks like those are pretty solid. Yeah, Jai says the Happy Model, the Nano Pro, the Lite Pro, seems like a good option as well. So
what about
the problem is, like you said, it's just batch to batch. So you might get, we've seen some EP receivers come through that were horribly placed. It's kind of a mess for soldering and stuff. So we just have to hope that every batch is good.
Yeah. What about the Naminmo flash module with the OLED screen? Have they fixed the issue with the backpack? Is that good yet?
I believe they shipped new hardware for that. So that seems like a solid option as well. The Naminmo OLED or the ones without OLED, I think, are also solid.
We've also got this new Axis flying module for $120.
Yeah, I guess we could have put that in the news. That it's $127. I'm kind of waiting on that to drop and people to see that, right?
Yeah.
Before we go too far in there. But yeah, so it's $127, and looks like they're pushing towards the Crossfire Lite territory, right? Their whole goal there seems to be, hey, let's be a competitor to Crossfire Lite and that style of module. It's like a larger module that like pops onto the back, and then that fits onto a GR bay, like it's larger than a GR bay.
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for him.
Yeah,
like we're gonna take all of the okay. You know what's good about these modules? Well, they're small and they fit in the back of your radio, and they're not too expensive, and the build quality is kind of iffy. And then Axis Flying comes along and says, "What if we made one that had amazing build quality? Oh, I like this, and it's going to be huge and hang off the back of your radio, and it's going to be really expensive." And you're like, All right, well,
it does look it. And they did list that it's supposed to come with the ability to plug into like a Horus or like another style of radio, so that you don't have to have a JR bay plug-in for it.
That's the appeal. That is the appeal, such as it is that once you have a screen on the back of it, you can plug into. Well, you could plug like the example I like to use is that the Futaba radios support Crossfire, the high-end Futaba radios. I don't know where the cutoff is. I think it's the 14, but I'm not sure. And the Spectrum X, the 9X or X9 Spectrum, the 9 and higher support Crossfire. So in theory, you could use Express LRS on those radios since they just talk Crossfire. But you need one with they can't run a Lewis script, so you need one with a screen. And now they can.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that lands and stuff. So I think that's where the market's at right now, but I don't know. I'm excited about the Vantac stuff because, like you said, Frsky has had pretty good build quality in the past. So hopefully, when you pop these open, look at these receivers, it'll be good build quality here too.
Indeed, lots of options coming along. Alrighty, well, we've had our little fanboy Express LRS moment for the day. What do you say we talk about SharkByte?
All right, let's do it. So.
Clickbait of the night. Not really. Sort of.
Not really. Kind of. So Fatshark, we basically saw an email that was a reply to someone in one of the Fatshark groups here, Mr. David, and he got a reply from Fatshark support. He messaged him about his SharkByte Whoop board, and basically his response from Fatshark, to sum it up here, is essentially to say, HDZero is doing their own thing now. They're providing products direct to customers. We're excited about that. We're trying to build headsets, right? That's cool. So we're going to continue to support them if they're manufactured wrong, but otherwise we can't support your problem right now, and we're going to forward that to Divimath, and Divimath will handle your issue.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a little bit of reading between the lines here, which is that HDZero was originally going to be kind of a manufacturer, and then they were going to sell through Fatshark, which would sell I don't think it was ever expected to be exclusive, but at some point HDZero started selling direct to customers. Yeah. Like with the RunCam camera, for example, which was the direct deal between HDZero and RunCam, or maybe the Race VTX, I think. Yeah. Yep. And I think it feels like SharkByte is a little bit like, okay, well, you want to sell direct to customers? Good luck with that. And they're saying they're not going to be able. What specifically are they saying? Because they say we will provide warranty support, but not after-sale support. So what does that even mean?
So the way I don't know, the takeaway that I have from it is essentially they're saying like, hey, we're trying to build headsets. So like, all we want to do is build headsets. So, we've got the SharkByte hardware out here, and we don't have any more parts. And so that sounds like, hey, we're not making this anymore. Obviously, like we're not interested in stocking this stuff anymore. And they specifically say we no longer have the parts to service or repair damaged air units after use. I think that's an interesting way they put it. I don't know if that's on purpose or not.
The VTX.
Yeah, but it seems like they're saying here, like, hey, anything branded SharkByte, we're not really going to be able to support you. We're just going to support, from the get-go. But anything extended is going to be supported by Divimath,
They say...
But
go ahead.
I just want to say, but they do say what we do best is building headsets. So my impression of this which we don't know for sure because this is what we've got here. But my impression of this is like the VTXs and possibly the VRX, the SharkByte VRX, are going to now be supported by Divimath, and Divimath will kind of take over that, and they'll stop producing SharkByte at Fatshark, which is presumably what will happen, but we don't know that for sure. But the headsets will still be digital. So right now we've got the Digital Scout HD, right, which we know from the investor talk that we talked about last week. You know, they said like, hey, with the new digital goggle, this is a quote, with the new digital goggle, we're just starting to get the digital goggle out there. We'll hopefully have a bunch for Christmas, but we don't think we'll have enough. You know, that's not a company who's planning to stop making goggles. That's a company who's continuing to
if they talk about it in an investor call, there's some accountability there.
Yes, and Fatshark says we want to make headsets. So to me, it makes a lot of sense to say, hey, you know, we're just going to make these digital headsets with integrated chipsets in these, and then we can do all this other support on all the stuff we've already sold, can go over to Divimath, and we'll just move away from all this external garbage. We'll make headsets, and HDZero can sell all the other pieces.
Yeah, that is also kind of how I read it. And they're saying, we will support products for manufacturing defects. And the way I read that is, if you get a product that has a manufacturing defect, we will replace it for you with a new one. But we will not be servicing or repairing damaged air units after use. And I think of how right now, if you have Fatshark goggles and they break or in some way, you send them in, and Randy, or I always think of Randy, he's the guy who I always talk to, he'll fix them and he'll send them back to you. New DVR board, new power boards, you name it. And I asked the question on my live stream, has Fatshark really been repairing SharkByte VTXs? And several people jumped up and said, yeah, I had some broken VTX, whatever's wrong with them, I don't know. They sent them in, and Fatshark repaired them and sent them back. And they're saying they will not be doing that anymore. They're leaving that to HDZero. So.
Yep. And then in that same Imager album, I've got, just to show that they are supporting everybody, Carl made a post today.
Yeah, I'm going to put that up.
Yeah, basically saying like, oh, okay. Yeah, either way.
Is this it? Maybe this is something different.
That's the same post. It's the same difference.
Okay.
But yeah, so as you know, Divimath designs all this stuff and takes care of all this stuff. So we're not going to abandon anybody. We'll be taking care of all this stuff moving forward. And if you've got any problems, you know, we'll handle them. So
yeah. It's this is a quote from Carl Zhao at Divimath, from Ryan Quellet, who is a alpha beta tester and works closely with them. So presumably this is a reliable source and an accurate quote.
Yeah, in our Imager link, I put the direct quote from Carl. It's the same thing, just basically from Carl. But this is definitely from Carl.
Carl points out Fatshark has not ordered replacement parts. So it certainly seems like the Fatshark is saying we will no longer be stocking that because HDZero has decided to go direct to customer instead of selling through resellers like us. Therefore, fine, good luck with that. And Carl is saying Fatshark has not ordered replacement parts, which, if you read between the lines, Carl is saying, yeah, we would be happy to supply them with replacement parts if they wanted to order them. So it seems like Fatshark is driving this decision, although arguably Fatshark would say that by going direct to customer, HDZero drove this decision. Like, what do you expect us to do? Not get any margin while you sell direct and undercut us?
It's hard to know which thing happened, whether Fatshark dropped out behind the scenes and that's why Carl pushed forward, or whether Carl pushed forward and that's why Fatshark dropped out behind the scenes, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it makes a lot more sense that, I don't know, Fatshark is just fine with this. Like, you know, they say in that statement there, we are excited about this transition as it will allow us to focus on doing what we do best.
That's corporate doublespeak. Who knows?
Sure.
You always act like it was your idea and it's the best idea you ever had. Even somebody punches you in the face, you'll be like, I'm very happy for the opportunity to explore life without teeth.
Yeah, but do you think Fatshark really wants to make VTXs? Like, that's my whole point. Is I think this is probably what they want. I don't think
Fatshark wants to do anything. I think they don't give me the impression that they want to do anything. I think they want to make money.
Yeah.
In a market where there is no one who will compete with them, and all of their customers will adore them with very little demands, is how I read it. So I mean, it's like, do they want to make headsets? I mean, I think they are. I think they don't. I think that they are not eager to do the work of earning a position as a leader in this emerging digital FPV field. In other words, by putting in an effort to develop VTXs, and therefore they are kind of happy when somebody else takes it off their plate, and now they don't have to do it anymore. But I also feel like it's a kind of a squandered opportunity. That's obviously that's their decision to make. It's their company and their business.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I think Mr. Huggy says HDZero don't want to make VTXs, but they do. But they make them so they can sell chipsets. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
HDZero doesn't want to make VTXs, right? So who's going to do it? The hope, I think, was that Fatshark would step up and do it. And at some point, HDZero decided that wasn't panning out and went direct to customer.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Fatshark, I wouldn't want to do it. Like, if you think about what Fatshark's like whole thing has been, like they're making headsets, like, and now you're saying like, hey, just because we have a new tech in the headset, now we have to build up all this infrastructure to build. Like, I mean, now yes, we have to make VTXs and learn about VTX design and how VTXs go together.
Stop, but no, because Fatshark and Immersion RC are the same company, or at least they were. Fatshark, you say Fatshark never made VTXs, but if you go back far enough, the very first analog VTXs that FPV pilots were using, well, maybe not the first, but my first VTX was an Immersion RC 8-channel VTX. And Immersion RC and Fatshark are literally in the same. I mean, Tony Cake's desk is in Fatshark's office in Shenzhen. Is that
still the case? Now that I don't know if
that's still the case. You're right.
I don't know. To me, like I don't know. To me, that they're not at all the same company anymore, right? And now IRC is in Ghost Pocket from what or Orca's Pocket from what we know, right?
Good point. So, yes. So Fatshark isn't a VTX manufacturer either. Now that they are no longer maybe sisters with Immersion RC.
Yeah. At least that's the impression that I get. So
it just depends.
They are happy to do this. And they're happy to say like, okay, hey, all we're going to do is make headsets. We're going to put chipsets into headsets if we need to do that. And then we're going to sell them to all our commercial customers because Red Cat's going to supply us with commercial customers who are going to buy these on guarantees. Right? Like, why would you not want to do that?
And where does that leave you as an FPV pilot?
Well,
that's the thing.
Yeah. Presumably, though, we can just hope that like the HDO3 that they make for the commercial side will be the same HDO3 we want. I think that's kind of the only thing we're banking on at this point, right?
And we still need somebody to make us a gosh dang good VTX. Yeah. And HDZero, that's not their area of specialty. They're doing it because no one else will. Better. They're getting better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Like the 1 watt VTX with the 40 millimeter form factor. That's the kind of decision. I mean, I know they worked so hard to get it, and you know, but I feel like that's if HDZero was working with TBS to make a unified digital, it probably wouldn't have had that 40 millimeter form factor. I'm guessing.
It definitely. There's no way it would have. No way.
Whatever problems they were trying to solve that they ended up going with that hanging over the edge 40 millimeter board. TBS engineers would have said, no, you can't do that. And they would have found another way to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's room for improvement is, I guess, what I'm saying.
Sure. Hopefully, you know, like we talked about before, we get people coming and, I don't know, making some stuff for the system, more stuff. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
All right. We have one more piece of HDZero related news. And that is there is an HDZero bind and fly quadcopter in existence. And as far as we know, this is the first one. The first bind and fly. Well, I mean, Rotor Riot makes like bespoke builds with HDZero in them. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like an off-the-shelf bind and fly. And it's from HGLRC.
Banggood or something, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real mark of, finally, something I can buy on Banggood. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, this is pretty neat though. Craig Johnstone, I just want to shout him out. He worked really hard to get this done, to get this from them. But yeah, this is I think this is pretty exciting to see this. So getting a bind and fly that's actually like basically build around. Maybe the top plate could be a little larger. That's one of the complaints even he had, Craig, who helped get this done. But yeah, I think it's definitely cool to see this coming out. I don't know. I think this is what we have to see to have the system move forward. You know, it's more of these options. So.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm excited. I think it's great that this is happening. Is that Express LRS? Even better. Yeah, because HGLRC has their own Express LRS systems too. This is the racing quadcopter of the future. You can quote me on that. I mean,
that's true.
It's a SharkByte with Express LRS in it. I just had an interview. It hasn't published yet. I had an interview with Evan Turner talking about running SharkByte at Nationals. It'll be coming out on my channel maybe tomorrow. And I asked him to predict next year at Nationals how many people will be running SharkByte. I didn't ask him about Express LRS, but what do you want to guess? What do you think, Blunty? I'm not going to tell you his number, but next year at Nationals, how many people are running SharkByte? What percent?
Well, I think it's either going to be like 20% or like 75%. It's like my
interesting,
like where my head is at.
Yeah,
I don't know that we're going to be too middling. I think either everybody's going to drop it or it's going to be hype as shit for the next year, and people are just going to be jumping on top of it. I mean, for racing, I think we've seen it's really positive.
Yeah.
So
would you take the over or the under on 50%? Like if you had to pick.
Over.
You take the over.
Yeah.
All right.
I do think it is looking like it will be in a lot of places, unless something magic happens and like support drops and Divimath goes under or something crazy.
Yeah. Let's put a poll up. I'm going to put a poll up in the chat.
Sure.
Percent of HDZero pilots at multi-GP Nats next year. Take the over or the under on 50%. Over, under. Let's see what the chat thinks. Do you understand, chat? Do you understand? Am I dumb here for not assuming that everyone knows what an over and under is? You have to take a bet. You're going to bet however much money. You either say, I think it'll be higher or less than 50%. All right, we'll see what people say. In the meantime, let's move on to the next item on the list. And this one is a legal issue. In Ottawa County, a circuit judge has granted an injunction. Why should I care? Sounds very boring.
So one thing we've discussed a little bit in the past, and a lot of drone pilots know, is that a local area might make a law about that you can't fly somewhere, right? But we know, as pilots, most of us know anyway, that law is not like legal. You can't actually make a law that says you can't fly here. You can only control like takeoff and landing, and that's
because the FAA's argument is that only the FAA may regulate the airspace. The state, the city, the county, the parks department cannot regulate the airspace. They can prevent you from taking off and landing because that is not done in the airspace. But once you're in the airspace, you do whatever you want, according to the FAA.
Yeah. And basically, after some fighting and back and forth and all kinds of different things, this took quite a while. I believe this has been going on since early 2020. Basically, they were like, hey, man, you can't do this. I mean, in so many words, since the county enabling statutes do not expressly authorize the county to regulate drones, the county's general authority to manage and control does not include drone regulation. The county must see to the UASA's a specific prohibition on local regulation of drone operation. And the park rule and the UASA are both directly applied to or address the subject matter of drone operation or use. The two directly conflict.
And we have to be careful about. I mean, this is definitely a win for several reasons, but specifically, I mean, they could still their thing about they had a policy about surveillance. You're not allowed to have aerial surveillance. You're not allowed to have unauthorized video and photo recording. Blah 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 blah. And the judge said, well, only the FAA can make those rules because they're taking place in the airspace. I don't know if that's exactly what the judge said, but that's the gist of it. But of course, they could just come back and say, okay, fine, you may not take off or land within park property. And then they've essentially accomplished what they want to accomplish. Is that a bad take?
Sort of. I mean, it depends. I mean, I don't know. To me, like any kind of time where you get to say like, hey, this bunch of BS you wrote that somebody could get in trouble for is now not applicable. I think that's a win no matter what, right?
Absolutely. Because we see a lot of cases where a municipality a city or a state or whatever, will try and break this rule. And it's annoying because the FAA enforces these rules on pilots. Not a lot of pilots, but it does happen. And you get guys like Paul Nurkala getting fined for flying close to a train. Okay, fine, he broke the rules, he got slapped, fair enough. He took his chances. You see guys like Philly Mikey getting fined and he was a bonehead and he did illegal things and they came and they fined him. He had it coming, fine. But then you get these cases where a state legislature or a city will make a rule and the FAA does not write an amicus brief or send a lawyer to argue and say, you cannot do this. They're just like, yeah, right. Okay, we're a little busy. We're not going to do that. And to be fair, they are busy. They're super busy. And there are lots of pilots who break the rules that they're too busy to go after. So I'm not acting like, it's just like, it's nice that finally one of these things actually went our way. And this draconian interpretation of the rules for once worked out to our benefit.
Yeah, it's all I can say is it's positive, and hopefully, more of this will happen. But it is good to see some of this wording and stuff get pushed out. So
yeah, awesome. Well, hopefully we see more of that. You know, it's worth pointing out, Blunty. I hesitate to go on a tangent because we're only 15 minutes till 7. I guess we're pretty close to the end, though. There are people who are arguing for a change to the way the law is interpreted. Like, for example, they're arguing that anything below 200 feet, some people have said, anything below 400 feet, there are various ways of wording it. They're arguing that that should be outside the FAA's jurisdiction. And, of course, the advantage of that would be that it opens the door to a more relaxed interpretation in some areas. But the disadvantage of that is that it means that now your local parks department can just ban drone flights wholesale. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because now suddenly so I'm not convinced that that's necessarily a winning strategy. I don't know.
If you you think, I'm trying to figure out, is that true? Like if you fell under a shielded operations law and you were like, you're still flying under the law, right?
Well, so shielded operations would be a change to federal law, which would say that if you're flying within a certain distance of an obstacle, then you are sort of free to fly because you're not in the national airspace. But what some people are doing is they're trying to sort of remove federal jurisdiction over like the lower 200 feet or 300 or 400 feet or whatever.
I see.
And say that is not federally regulated. That is up to the state or the city.
Yeah.
Or the individual. Well, what FPV pilots imagine is going to happen is it'll be up to the individual property owner, and finally I can fly in my backyard up to 200 feet, just like I want. But the downside is that now your dumbass local parks department or your dumbass state legislature is going to be like, no drones below 200 feet, and there's going to be nothing you can do about it if they remove federal regulation for those. So,
yeah. I'm not sure where I fall on that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's likely to happen, but so it probably doesn't matter. But anyway, cool. What do we got next?
All right, let's look at some cool stuff drones can do. We got
cool
a couple
stuff drones
stories
can do.
about
awesome
cool stuff drones can do. We like to do those sometimes. For the first one, we're going to check out. Nicholas Rim here has brought us a pretty cool project. He decided he wanted to balance a pendulum on a drone, like on a typical FPV drone. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm sure I could figure this out, right?
How hard could it be?
Yeah, I think he found out how hard it could be. But yeah, this is a pretty neat project. It takes a lot more than you would think, because obviously this isn't suspending something, it's putting something overhead and trying to balance it. And so he basically, in the tune, he's got he builds a disconnected link to the pendulum so that it can be independently controlled with the control software as well. And then so the control software is balancing the pendulum and the drone is also balancing the pendulum. It's kind of cool. So he ties it to the gimbal.
Nice. And we've got links to this video and this project down in the show notes as well, in case you want to watch the whole video. This is really difficult. Honestly, it's a very unstable system and requires constant corrections to keep it balanced. Now he's not doing this manually, is he? The drone is auto balancing it.
Yeah, exactly, through the process.
And is it doing that with external sensors? Because I think I saw an example of this where they were doing it with external sensors.
No, I believe it's all on the drone. As far as I know, everything's on the drone.
So it's detecting the position of the rod and then just sort of moving the drone to balance the rod. That's really slick. But the rod is on a gimbal.
Yes.
So is the gimbal sort of articulating the rod?
Yes, the gimbal, but it can't, like, obviously doesn't have the ability to completely articulate it.
It doesn't have the torque.
It doesn't have the torque, exactly. So it just uses it to help stabilize it and then balance around that, like, gimbaled axis.
Interesting.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool. And, you know, who knows what the application of it is? It sounds like the kind of thing that he just went, hey, I want to do it.
Yeah.
So
Unlimited
he figured
Vertical
out how
points
to do
out.
it.
Unlimited Vertical points out he did end up putting an IMU on the pendulum arm.
Wow. So it can detect the movement of the, like basically an accelerometer, I guess.
Yeah.
So it can detect gravity. That's really slick. That's really slick. Really slick. There's so many cool things come from somebody going, hey, I just want to do this weird thing for sort of no reason. And then it turns into something cool.
I think also that kind of brings us into the next story, I think. This drone is definitely something where somebody was like, I want to make this drone do something cool. So these are basically, you know, talons that they've printed and placed onto the bottom of this drone. And then essentially when you land, when you hit the feet, the feet like start to push in and then collapse the system. And then as the system collapses enough, it like springs shut. And then there's another basically motor in there that you can trigger, and the motor extends back out that arm and the spring releases. And then it can move freely again. So basically this drone
grabbing
it can actually grab onto stuff and then release kind of on command.
Oh, wow. That's creepy. That's kind of creepy. That's super cool. And it can grab and catch things. It's not just for landing, as we see here. It's not just for like landing on a tree branch and perching, but it can also sort of grab and catch things.
Yeah. I don't know that they have a lot of super like practical applications yet, you know, going through the article, but it's definitely pretty neat what it can do. Yeah.
And the gripping is sort of built in, right? As the leg compresses, it sort of grips mechanically.
Yes.
So really all
basically the compression is automatic. I think the when you leave the surface, I think that's when you trigger. Yeah.
But all the flight controller would have to do is sort of point the talons at the thing it wants it to catch. And then once it hits it, it'll just grab on. Yeah.
So somebody points out in chat, saving drones from roofs. Yeah, this is definitely the future of the going to get your friend's quad, right? Just strap some feet on it.
Yeah, just go grab it. Really cool. Go fishing with it, says Mr. Huggy.
I think that's illegal.
I don't know. It probably depends on where you're at.
Probably.
Alrighty. Next up, we've got a community spotlight. We are back with our friend Sandor Dubronner. The last time we saw Sandor, he was testing Happy Model Express LRS antennas on his antenna tester and deciding whether they were well designed. He decided they were. Now he's done the same thing for DJI antennas.
Yes. So he measured both VNA and SWR of the original V2 antennas. And then he did the iFlight bombs and the iFlight crystal patch as well, just so he could get a good specs for everybody, basically. And this is the most detailed, one of the most detailed charts I've ever seen for you know, a random person just doing some testing. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's obviously got some specialized gear.
Yes, he definitely does. He basically says if you need help, by the way, he's got a contact on his page, so he can help you set up your equipment to do the same thing if you have this equipment. And he's happy to help you take measurements and stuff. But he basically says, like, hey, if you don't know how to read a Smith chart or the other graphs, if you're confused, the result is that all three antennas are more or less resident on the frequency they should be. More or less, while the channels in the VTX are not one frequency, it's a bandwidth, but they're all inside the correct range. So
yeah. It's worth pointing out, and this was pointed out to us the last time we talked about his results, that there is more to an antenna's performance than just the test that he's doing, which is not criticism of him. He's doing the test that he's capable of doing with the equipment that he's got. Somebody talked about that the the iFlight the Happy model antenna, it's been cut so that one of the legs is a different length than the other. And I think it was, what's his name from, not Video Aerial System, Hugo from Churosi. I think he was making an argument that gets the impedance right, but it throws off some other characteristics that he was arguing that it wasn't actually a well-designed antenna. It just sort of has manipulated to look really good in one particular test. And of course, that's beyond my understanding. I do feel like putting out a caveat there that these tests, I mean, I think that probably the iFlight crystal and the iFlight antennas are good antennas. But then if you say the Happy model antenna has this weird characteristic, but it turns out it tests good. And then someone says, well, actually, that's just one test. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I could see that.
Sure.
But good results for the DJI antenna and the iFlight antennas is the takeaway.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Let's go on to a ridiculous story. So,
yeah.
DRL lately, Drone Racing League, has been doing some pretty crazy stuff, I would say.
They made this mobile app with go ahead, with who?
With Algorand, right?
Algorand.
The cryptocurrency. And they've got all kinds of different little partnerships going on. They're with T-Mobile now, and
we tried that. We tried that mobile app, and it was. I mean, you should really go watch the clip on my Livestream Clips channel, which is linked down in the video description. But it was, you have to download it from this weird third-party app store, not from the official Android app store. Was that right? Am I remembering that right?
Yes.
Or was it?
That's correct. That was correct.
And then when you log in, they start matchmaking you in these kind of weird races, which is basically like a infinite runner game where you're dodging obstacles. And the matchmaking was weirdly fast. I don't think it was real people, because I don't think the user base could possibly. They're like, yeah, we're going to matchmake you. Oh, yeah, you have a good race. And then they're like, now you can bet real money. Put your credit card in. And I'm like, oh, I see. I'm going to bet real money on these races with real people.
Yeah.
So that was all a little weird and hilarious.
Yeah. So in the continued adventures of DRL weirdness, they have now launched a bet. I don't know, man. What the heck are they doing?
I don't know, man. But I mean, they're calling up the nostalgia of the race car bed from when you were a child, right? Ah! Ah! What? What? No.
Yeah, so
it's made of MDF. Do you think I don't know what MDF is?
Yeah.
I could buy MDF at the hardware store. I could buy a lot of it.
I think the most confusing thing about this was I mean, there's a lot of confusing parts here, but it's like you're taking the cheapest thing and aiming at the highest piece. You know what I mean? It's like you said, it's made out of MDF. It's like, this is a render. We don't even have the real bed. And it's going to be made in February to ship to you. And they want you to spend $25,000 on some pillows and a square of MDF with a TV mounted in it that doesn't come with a TV.
It doesn't come with a TV for 25 grand? The
No.
option to add a TV mount at the end of the bed. LED light. So what this is it's an MDF drone bed with some LED lighting and foam spinning propellers. It's an exclusive, made-to-order, limited edition drone bed. Sleep mask in the shape of an FPV drone goggles. I don't want to be a hater, Blunty, but this is not the ultimate holiday gift. Who's making these decisions at DRL?
I'm pretty sure you're allowed to be a hater when somebody's trying to charge you $25,000 for what is like a Walmart bed, essentially. That's what I think of when I think of MDF furniture.
You can literally buy a car.
Yeah.
Like a new car. Well,
Yeah.
maybe you can't anymore. Once upon a time you could.
You could buy some new cars, probably. But,
You could definitely buy a used car. You could.
Yeah, I said, I was telling somebody, they should they should offer your choice of a DRL pilot as like a full-size body pillow.
Like literally, Alex Vanover will come lay next to you.
For 25 grand, man, I better be getting something.
Right? Oh, you were just talking about like body pillow. We need DRL pilot waifus, is what you're saying. Yes. I need a full DRL. That would be a better idea than this. Do full-length waifu body pillows of the DRL pilots.
Yeah, I bet you'd
come on. That's
non-zero. Good. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what DRL's up to. Or what the thought is here, but like, and who is
they can't expect to sell any of these, right?
Yeah, right. Who is it? Well, so this is what I was telling the other thing I was mentioning in Discord earlier. This to me feels like a very intelligent stunt to get on all the news outlets because it did very well. It did very, very well.
It broke through to mainstream news.
Yeah, like Hypebeast had this and Wired had this, and like there was a bunch of places who normally don't do drone stories and who would never have said the words DRL. And now they're talking about a $25,000 bed shaped like the drone that's part of the league,
Blunty, if we had not done the story about the frickin' mobile app, then I would be with you here. I would say this is a stunt. They do not expect to sell any of these. It is just to get on the news, and people are talking about DRL and the $25,000 drone bed. But that frickin' mobile app, it's real. It's weird, and it's confusing, and it makes me wonder what their priorities are. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, how much coke do you have to be doing in a boardroom with other people to like think this is a smart idea if this isn't some marketing strategy, right? Like, Jesus
no one's
Christ.
going to buy this. Anyone who does buy this shouldn't buy this.
This isn't for anyone. This is not for anyone. Like an adult would buy this. I mean, what are you going to buy this for your child? But who is into drones that much who wants to spend $25,000 on their child's bed? Like, this makes no sense.
I mean, I was gonna say Terry, but I think he has more taste than this.
I do too.
I mean, he's super into drones, and I feel like if for the right bed, he might spend that much on his kid's bed.
Yeah.
But I don't think he would buy this. I don't want to presume to know his mind, but
he would buy a linchpin bed, maybe. But not
there you go. That's right. Yeah. And it would rotate while you sleep.
Yes. For optimum angles.
Oh, DRL, what are you doing? Well, I don't know. All right, moving on. So newsworthy. Oh, we gotta. Before, don't let me forget about the poll, Blunty. We're almost finished. I'm gonna forget the poll. Don't let me forget about the poll that I put up.
I won't.
Hopefully I won't forget now. All right. Well, what's next, Blunty?
All right.
I can't find my gosh dang show notes. Oh, here they are.
Well, last but not least, we wanted to finish up by telling you guys about an app, the Hydra FPV app. We talked about a little bit about DRL scammy apps and ways to bet. This is a real way to bet with not real money, with fake internet points for fun, and it's a good time. So basically, Hydra FPV is an app that tracks a lot of the the races that are going on. Anybody who's signed up for the Hydra app, and then during the events, people who are running it can go in the Hydra app and enter all the information. And then any users, anybody, like so you right now listening, even if you're not part of VRL or whatever's going on, VRL is the first one on my Hydra app when I check it out. Even if you're not in VRL, you can go bet on VRL. And with these internet points.
Bet like fake points, not real money, though.
Yes, and basically each event has its own set of points. So you start with 1,000, I think, or whatever, and then you start betting on pilots and how everybody's going to finish. And then you start gaining or losing these points.
It feels kind of like fantasy football.
Kind of, but it's like very it's condensed, and it all happens like in the next couple hours, So it's like it's cool because it all washes out pretty quick. But a lot of places, I'm not sure if VRL's doing this, but a lot of places you go are also giving points to the people who win the bets. So like if you're up in the top of the bets and you happen to be like the best and pick all the right pilots, then you can get a prize and you're not even racing. And that's something a lot of places.
So you're saying they've partnered with race organizers. Yes. So the race organizers are kind of hyping this app, and they're saying, so-and-so won first prize, second prize, third prize, but then they'll have a prize that goes to whoever won the Hydra bets at the race.
Yeah,
That's
and it can
cool.
be over the. Typically, it's like even over the stream and stuff too. So, pretty cool.
Yeah,
and then also
people
Hydra
like
has
free
like
things.
Hydra has links to streams sometimes. If some of the races have streams, sometimes they'll be integrated into the Hydra app and stuff. So some people have mentioned this has been around for a while, and I know that, but a lot of people don't know about it. So
Yeah.
I figured we'd let people
All right. Well,
let
that's
people
really
know
cool.
what Hydra was.
All right. Well, it doesn't sound like it costs you anything to get going, and some people will
No.
be into it.
Yeah.
Why doesn't everyone just bet that Evan Turner's going to win the race or whatever?
Well,
and then he
number
wins.
one, it makes you pick order. So you got to pick like the top 4 or top 6 or whatever, and then you get more
nice.
points based on how well you get all the order in. So maybe everybody picks Evan, but other people pick second, third, fourth, right? And then
Interesting. That's nice. Yeah.
And then
even
you
if
can
there's
also
a ringer.
decide.
Yeah.
And you also decide how many points to gamble on each race. So there's also variability of like how sure you are, that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. So like if you're like, well, clearly Min Chan Kim is just going to sweep this one. You're like, oh, I'm not going to win many. I'm not going to bet many points. Scarecrow FPV says they did that when they were at I.O. and it was pretty all right. Nice. Big races doing it. Cool. Brandon RC says that race car bed, that drone racing bed is an excellent way to prevent teen pregnancy.
Yeah, that's very
If you have a teenage son or daughter, get them that bed. $25,000 is a lot cheaper than raising a grandbaby.
Very, very true.
Let's finish this poll. Let's see how it came out. End poll. The question in the poll was, would you take the over or the under? Will more or less than 50% of people be using HDZero at MultiGP Nationals next year? And with a distribution, 67% of people said more than 50%, 32% said fewer than 50%. So by a fair margin, people think that more than half the people at MultiGP Nats will be using HDZero. And I'll also spill the beans. Evan also said he thought that more than half. So yeah.
Well, that's cool. I think I'm only excited to see where it goes. That's for sure.
Me too. Being able to see could change the sport, says Override. Imagine being able to see where you're going.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I wonder if there is like a world where we'll get more complicated obstacles or more different like lines and stuff based on the ability to see better, like HD.
Yeah, I don't know.
You
I can
can't
hardly
hang stuff in the way, like currently, but maybe you could find like a line where like, oh, analog wouldn't be okay here, but I don't know. It's interesting to consider.
Yeah. Yeah. Very exciting. Sorry, I'm checking the Bitterroot FPV says that he's prepared to take on the challenge of getting some love on the DRL bed. He thinks he's up to this.
It sounds like a real challenge.
Just
you have to mount the TV in there.
Oh yeah, you gotta have the TV, and it's got to be playing drone racing.
Yeah. So. This is the only place I have to watch. You got to get in the bed so we could watch drone race.
What size is the mattress on that bed? Do we know?
It's a full size or a twin. I think there's 2 options. Yeah.
Full or twin are my only choices. So I'm definitely sleeping alone, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Alrighty. All right. That's going to do it for the news this week, folks. Thank you so much for coming out and hanging with us. And if you think there are any stories we need to know about, if only there was an email address you could send them to, news@fpvknowitall.com, and we get those.
Yeah, it's on the show all the time here. If you ever forget it, it's always there for you to find. Mm-hmm. Just let us know, and we'll hopefully get your news into the news.
We'll be back
also,
next
don't forget.
week.
Don't forget to go down there and give a like, subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed somehow. If you're not subscribed, it's always helpful. Also, don't forget to go subscribe to the JB Livestream Clips channel. Also a great channel for you to subscribe to. So we appreciate all your help.
Putting up little clips. We break out all the news segments if you want to find one that you're having trouble finding, or also do like 2 or 3 highlights from each of my weekly Q&A streams if you want to get those. We got to get super chats before we go, Blunty. Mikhail Tejera says, thank you for €5. I can't create a platform in the future for protocols like a smartphone with apps, and the devs managed to evolve the protocol independently. I think what we're talking about is Express LRS or OpenTX.
Well, I think I think he's talking about in the idea we were talking about the 4-in-1 with the internal modules. Like, couldn't you just blob everything out and then like everybody just like submits, has their floating blobs and everybody just like updates their blob, but it's all together, that sort of deal.
I mean, everybody says that, but when it
Right.
comes time to actually do it, it's a lot of work. So
I think that would be the whole thing. It's like, if you know how to do that, contact both parties and get it going.
Well, it would
that's
require integration between EdgeTX as well, because the interface between the module and the OS would require some manipulation. So I think it would be not as easy as it sounds. So
yeah.
Hypnotoad, thanks for £5. Apparently, I can send this super chat for free. So there you go. I don't know how you can send a £5 super chat for free, but I appreciate you sending it to me. So that is going to do it. We're caught up, and we're going to get out of here. We'll see you next week, 6 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday nights and throughout the week on my channel.
Yeah. Maybe a simulator stream this week?
Yes, probably. We got to we're almost done.
Yes. We got 2 weeks, maybe one, but probably 2 weeks.
It would be great if it was one. Let's see what we can do to make that happen.
We do
as much fun as we're having, but probably on Friday. Nothing promised, but
yeah. All right.
All righty, guys. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, we're done.